morning, students, parents, and faculty. As Mrs. Murata just said, my name is Hannah Cherokee, and as some of you may know, I have the second to last 8th grade chapel. I have watched each and every one of my 8th grade classmates before me give wonderful chapels. They've covered great and important topics, such as the value of friendship and being yourself. So the time came for me to write my chapel, and I couldn't decide what I wanted to write about that wasn't too similar to anyone else's. I decided to break down the chapel process and see if that would help. I realized that most people start the chapel with a question or a story, continue through the body of their chapel, and end with a quote or another question. Then I realized how much I enjoyed the quotes at the ends of the chapels and even in my everyday life. So I thought, what if I give my chapel on quotes? Why shouldn't I make my favorite part of my chapel the entire chapel? So today I will be speaking to you about quotes and what they mean to me. I'll start with one of my favorite quotes. Some people feel the rain, others just get wet. Bob Marley. I like this quote because of its crypticity. I feel like everyone would have a different interpretation, which I think is great because it makes the quote that much more effective. Whatever your reasoning behind this may be, I'm going to share mine with you now. I think that this quote was intended to make you consider how you take things. New information, change, a bad thing happening to you, or anything else. I remember when I first came to Montgomery. I had just finished first grade at my old school, and I came to visit in July. When my mom and I pulled into the parking lot, I didn't know why we were there. I just thought we were going to walk around for a little bit. Walking around then led to a tour, and then back home I was asked if I wanted to leave my school at the time. I immediately said no, horrified at the thought of leaving my friends. Then my parents tried again, saying, "You're leaving, but would you like to go to Montgomery?" I agreed, but was still upset about leaving my friends in school. Rather than dwelling on that, I decided to focus on all of the new friends and new teachers I would have at Montgomery and think about that instead. Now back to the quote. If you're someone who Bob Marley says just gets wet, you'll take what's given to you, good or bad, go with it, and try to make the best of it. If you feel the rain, you have more and more time to think of it as a bad thing. Say you just got out of a pool and it's raining very hard. You were just swimming, so getting drenched by rain might not matter much to you. You'll take it and go with it. The other option is to have a much more pessimistic outlook and think of the rain as preventing you from being dry or foul weather. If I hadn't looked at Montgomery as a new opportunity, I probably would have had a different attitude walking into my second grade classroom, and I might not have all of the amazing friends and memories I have now as an 8th grader. Whoever is trying to bring you down is already below you. Bunu Muhammad. I have already encountered many people trying to make me question myself, second-guess myself, or make me believe that they're better than me. I know that I will run into much more of this in the future, as I'm sure all of you will. In the summer after my 5th grade year, one of my friends and I auditioned for a musical together, something I've been doing quite frequently since. My friend was determined to get the lead role, and despite the fact that I didn't want it in the first place, she began to tell me that I wasn't good enough, and other things like that, trying to bring me down and make me believe that I wasn't capable of it. I don't know what compelled her to do that, but she has not done it since. I've learned that in most cases, anyone continuously trying to make you doubt yourself isn't worth listening to and might not be worth your time. Why focus on the pain when you can focus on the happiness? Alexandra Michaels. When I was 7, I decided that I wanted a fish. My 8th birthday passed, still without a fish, and the school year started. On the first day of 3rd grade that year, my mom picked me up and we went to get a fish. I loved this fish so much. That year, my class's chapel was in May. I was extremely excited, and it is still one of my favorite chapels that I have ever been in. The morning of the chapel, I got out of bed and went to get ready, noticing that my fish on my dresser had died. I got to school incredibly upset, and it almost ruined that chapel for me. One of my best friends at the time, who is still one of my best friends, said to me, "You've been excited about this chapel for weeks. Have fun, and then you can be sad about your fish, but don't let it ruin the chapel." I went on stage that morning for my chapel and had so much fun. If she hadn't told me that, I probably would have spent the chapel upset and have not been able to look back at it now as fun. I still think about that quote all the time, whenever anything bad happens to me, and I find it makes me a lot happier in general. You are not the opinion of someone who doesn't know you. Taylor Swift. I want you all to think about your life. Think about the most common facts, such as how many siblings you have or your middle name, and then think about other things. There are things you have under the surface that aren't common knowledge. Maybe there are things that only your parents or your best friend know, or maybe things only you know. I know I have things like that, and I'm sure all of you have something. Every detail about you, from your name to the smallest little hidden detail, make you into yourself. If anything was different, maybe you would be a different person. Maybe you wouldn't be. You will never know, and neither will anyone else in this room. Everyone has someone or multiple people who know them very well, whether it's your parents, your friends, your siblings, or anyone else. These people are probably very important to you, and some of them might be the people you go to when you need help with something, need advice, or need to decide on something. Their opinions of you are probably precise because they know you well. One time I was at the mall with a few of my friends. We were walking from one store to another, just talking, when another lady there, for some reason or another, decided to inform us that we were being incredibly rude. My friends and I were somewhat confused, as we weren't really doing anything and none of us had ever seen this woman before. But we just apologized and kept walking. About an hour later, one of my friends looks at me and says, "Do you think everyone we pass sees us as rude? Am I just a rude person?" I laughed and I told her not to worry, that she was really kind and that lady didn't even know her name or the first thing about her. You cannot define yourself by the opinions of others, particularly if they don't know you. While it is good and often very helpful and important to get your friends and family's opinions of you, you cannot let strangers or even acquaintances who don't know you make you question yourself and your values. My final quote is, "In order to win, you must be prepared to lose sometimes," and leave one or two cards showing. Van Morrison. This quote tells me that you cannot expect to win without hard work or letting some things go. Negotiations can be important. If you're trying to get what you want, you may have to sacrifice some things to get others. When I was in 4th grade, I was determined to get a new keyboard. I had a piano and it sat in my living room. I loved it very much, but I noticed that year that I wanted to play piano the most right before I went to bed, and of course then I couldn't access the living room. I worked all summer to get enough money to buy a new keyboard. Over the summer, I sacrificed quite a few parties, shopping trips, bike rides, sleepovers, and other things I love to do with my friends. In the end, I made enough money for a keyboard that I still use almost every night. I had to give up quite a few things to get there and work hard, but looking back, I believe it's all worth it. If you want something badly enough, you have to be able to work for it yourself. I believe that this quote embodies that very well, and it's something I've learned over the years. Everyone has quotes that mean a lot to them, whether it is something your favorite athlete says or just a saying your dad has around the house. Whether you know it or not, quotes play a huge part in all of our lives. Everyone has something they like to live by. Maybe it's a sentence that talks about your favorite things or embodies your morals. Maybe you recognize that this quote embodies your life, or maybe you don't. As you leave chapel and continue throughout your day, I hope some of you can think about some quotes you like, and I want you to realize how important they are to you. Everything we do is affected by either our words or other people's words. I don't know if some of you realize this, but it's something I've learned over the past few months. Maybe without these quotes in your mind, you would act differently or think differently. Maybe you wouldn't. As I said earlier about something, you'll never know, and neither will anyone else in this room. Thank you for your time, and have a good day.